Good afternoon again. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels, and we're going back to the JRC. But first, the disclaimers and the trigger warnings. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, pertinent links are right there in the description box with corresponding labels, just in case you want to deep dive the JRC on your own. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. First of all, we do use profanity. Secondly, when we talk about places like the Judge Rotenberg Educational Center, Tobin World, Agape Boarding School for Boys, and places like them, you're going to hear the descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. So if you have a child that is 16 or younger and watching this, parental supervision is very much advised, alright? Alright, so we're coming to the end of this document. And I want to say something. You guys ever notice that when it comes to going against the JRC, the documents seem to be short, sweet, and directly to the point, but when we are looking at things that are in favor of the JRC, it is a nonsensical, never-ending word salad. Just kind of an interesting thing I've noticed is all. Alright, so, legislative proposals to license the GED legitimize an intervention which has been recognized nationally and around the world as inhumane, ineffective, and unsafe. That's the biggest one, folks. You're talking about a specific type of so-called intervention that has been condemned as torture by literally the United Nations. There have been, I can't remember which ones, but there have been some nations that have asked, in particular right after that video of Andre McCollum's went viral in 2012, why the U.S. government has never conducted a federal investigation into the JRC, especially since we know the fact that because of them, 6 kids from different time periods are dead. And we have never, in official or unofficial form, have ever at any point received an answer to that question. Just something interesting I wanted to point out there. Requiring licensure for the use of graduated electronic decelerators sends precisely the wrong message regarding the continued use of aversive interventions in Massachusetts. A vote in support of H.170 is no different than stating that it is acceptable for individuals with disabilities to be subjected to contingent skin shock, provided it is appropriately regulated. This could not be further from the truth. In other words, there is no such thing as being appropriately regulated when what you are justifying is the torture of disabled individuals who get no say in the matter because they are disabled and minors. That's what it says. I know we'd like to live in a world where we tell ourselves that parents know best, but unfortunately, we have too many examples on how often that is not the case. That is not to slight parents at all. We are failing our parents left, right, and center. In particular, not helping to properly guide them through the service system. I actually took that as something that I did both on and off the clock because it was something that simply wasn't there for them. Parents don't automatically know that you need to do a full functional behavioral assessment before going to intervention. You get the diagnosis, the doctor hands you a pamphlet. How is a parent to know any different? No? So I'm not slighting parents in any way, shape, or form at all, but we also got to look at reality here. You have parents that genuinely believe believe that because these people have letters behind their name, because the JRC has gotten good at showing parents what they want to see, that they will actually fight against their own child's well-being in telling themselves that they're doing what is best for their children and that it's the rest of the world that's wrong. This is why we go through the route of laws. Because speaking reason to true believers, although on rare occasions, sometimes you can get a few to turn around, more often than not, unless there is at least a single seed of doubt already planted, you're just going to get people who are going to violently clash against you. I would know. I've been threatened, people showed up on my doorstep, I've had all kinds of craziness. Not that I care, I am what I am, and I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Whatever people do in regards to that and how they deal with me and my fight to be considered a full person worthy of being respected on the level of my neurotypical peers, it's going to be what it's going to be. But you get my point. It's torture. Calling it by another name does not make it not torture. And you got to get it in the law books, because when you're dealing with true believers, nothing else works. I hate to put it that bleakly, but it is what it is. DDS already licenses the operation of one program in the United States that uses the GED. However, this licensing authority has not been sufficient to guard against its misuse or the substantial risk of injury and harm caused by the GED. Now, that's not because DDS didn't try. How we got the whole 1987 consent decree in the first place that the JRC has used against the state of Massachusetts ever since was the fact that DDS did go to bat for their consumers during that time period. But the fact of the matter is, when you work in a job like that, when you're working through a state agency, they tend to not have unlimited funding. And as evidenced by the current bill on which I'm on current legislation watch for, along with multiple groups of other folks, if that shows you anything whatsoever at all in regards to that, yeah, it's a big mess, folks. And usually when there's cuts that happen, those programs are hit. A good majority of the time, they're already on skeleton crews, barely making it by, and more often than not, I myself, case managers that work in the building with me, sometimes we would put our own money up. Granted, we made sure that it was within legal bounds. But any little areas where we might be able to assist someone, or maybe guide them towards a charity that could help, because these types of fights are expensive, we would do it. We do not have access to the same amount of capital that places like the Judge Rothberg Educational Center do. They're raking in $250,000 a head every school year. Departments of mental health, divisions of developmental disabilities, we generally do not have that kind of capital. We're usually just trying to barely make it a good majority of the time. You know? And every time there's a massive cut, eligibility requirements have to go under a new redraft because they got to get narrow the criteria, which means the less people are going to get access, you get where I'm going, right? What happened back in 1987 was DDS just point blank did not have access to multi-million-dollar money-hungry lawyers. They did not have access to unlimited funding to be able to continue to fight against the JRC. They settled because, point blank, they didn't have any other choice. And now, because of that consent decree, they are not allowed to withhold licensure to the JRC because of that consent decree. Whether they like it or not, they have to continue to sign off, because if they don't, the JRC will renew their lawsuit and try to sue the state into the Stone Age. I mean, that's how that whole consent decree even became a thing in the first place. I wanted to point that out because I don't want anyone thinking that the DDS was ineffective because of any inadequacy on their part. That is not the case. It's just departments like that are not well funded to begin with. And every time there's a major cut, it's usually those departments who get hit first and get hit the hardest, which means there's not a whole lot of capital to be able to go after an organization like the JRC, which has unlimited resources, unlimited access to funding, unlimited access to some of the most evil, unscrupulous lawyers on planet Earth. You want to take a poorly funded Massachusetts version of the Department of Mental Health and put them up against something like that? Yeah. Just putting it out there. Nor can staff training mitigate these risks, which are tied to the device itself and to the serious risk of physical and psychological harms it has been found to create. Thank you! Labels cannot remove or provide a miraculous sudden cure to second and third degree burns. Pretty sure anybody who's, like, you don't even have to work in the medical field to know that. Come on now. It's just like how well wishes it's not going to make me into a multimillionaire. You know? Oh no, I'll be honest. I don't want to deal with the level of disgustingly rich individuals and the insanity they put up with. I would just like enough to be able to retire now and have my happy little vacations and, you know, put around and not have to deal with my government deciding to collectively lose its shit and go batshit insane without warning anyone. Dreams, right? Finally, licensure cannot account for or adequately respond to the overwhelming view of disability experts, state agencies, national and professional organizations that the GED is dangerous, ineffective, and inconsistent with professionally accepted standards of care. Only the elimination of the contingent electric shock as treatment modality in Massachusetts will adequately protect and ensure the dignity of those who are currently subjected to the GED. Oh, hell yes. Oh, hell up, yes. Hit him again. Hit him for me. Let me go ahead and continue. But I love how they did that. When they literally just bring that in. It brings it home. It brings it in stark relief. With literally everyone in this field is against you. And outside the field, people involved with the UN, for God's sake. That doesn't make it a David and Goliath fight. That makes it sanity versus insanity. Humanity versus inhumanity. Proper medicine, and the type of medicine that would make Joseph Mengele proud. It couldn't be more stark and direct. There is no complications. Most of the things in this world are not cut and dry, black or white. The JRC is not one of those cases. It very much is black and white. It's as black and white as you can possibly find in this world. Okay? The Supreme Judicial's recent decision demonstrates the need for the legislative action to protect persons with disabilities who are or who will be subjected to contingent electric shock. The Department of Developmental Services regulations banning any use of aversive electric shock beyond a small legacy group have been set aside. It is now incumbent upon legislators to pass this legislation. In order to align our practices with the findings of the FDA, the vast majority of other states, and professional consensus of leading national disability organizations. Thank you for the opportunity to comment on these important questions. Well, my goodness, you all put together an incredible document. I just want to start off with that. And reading that level of sanity, laying it out in stark relief, short, sweet, simple. What a breath of fresh air in comparison to what we've been dealing with in the documents from the JRC. There's no 55 pages of word salad. There's no copy and paste scenarios that are put in every single documentation against anyone who stands against the JRC's insanity. They just put it plain as the slightly big nose here, my schnoz on my face. Right? Well, I know we're going to probably have more word salad to come. But folks, sometimes you got to enjoy injecting the sanity that comes from our opposition to the insanity of the JRC. And on that note, folks, we're going to go ahead and close out for this one. We don't get very many views on this channel, and the few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So folks, if you would be so kind, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, and as always, folks, please don't forget to hit the comments. I do appreciate your time. As always, we here at Spilling Tea hope you have a good one. Don't forget to check your notifications are still turned on because we're still juggling quite a few different series right now, and I don't want you to miss any of the episodes we have coming next. Bye-bye, everyone.